George O. Kelly, a man who graduated with honors from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, had a dream of becoming an engineer who could build great tunnels, skyscrapers, and bridges. However, currently, he is working as an insurance clerk at $40 a week in New York with his dream slipping fast behind him. He's new to poverty, living in the middle of nowhere. One day, he received a nervous letter from a girl in Tennessee, the lover of his life, with the meaning to break up with him. He was sensitive enough to realize the anxiety was rising in his affair. It's not easy for a woman to say yes to a man who has nothing but his ultimate love. Without further hesitation, he went back to office, asked for some days off to head to Tennessee. Despite getting fired, he expressed his gratitude toward his boss eagerly. The next day, he took a train to Tennessee to meet Jonquil Carey, a sane, kind, charming young woman. However, on this return, George was a bit disturbed when he found that there were two other young men with her there. Their unexpected appearance made Jonquil leave her kiss hanging over the air and rejected all of the intimate expressions that George intended to do. George was also put at disadvantage when the car which took them home belonged to one of the two men. At last, the couple arrives at Jonquil's house, having dinner with her parents. When George is asked about his progress in New York, he lies about having been promoted and given a better salary. After dinner, the couple had some private time together. Jonquil admitted that she missed him so much. But the good time quickly turned into a big conflict when George asked Jonquil about the two boys, her nervous letter, and their marriage. George was so nervous that he kept talking about their marriage, making her cry. The distance between them became further and further due to the words they had said. The next day, the breaking point came. Jonquil saw the end of their relationship. She admitted miserably the situation. There's no use going on, you hate the insurance business, and you'll never do well in it. However hard George was trying to persuade her to marry him, Jonquil was still adamant about her decision. Now I can't because it doesn't seem to be the sensible thing. When his effort failed, he found it so hard to accept the reality and tried to run from that toughness as quickly as possible. His childish behavior was clearly represented through his rude response, and even self-blame unconsciously. All of these later led him to appear as a miserable and disgraceful man in front of his affair. George knows he must leave. Jonquil called a taxi, going with him for an hour to the station where they saw off each other awkwardly and somehow strangely. At the station, George promised to come back someday. I'll come back. Jonquil replied, I know you will. And offered to write to him sometimes, but he rejected it. Finally, George got on the train brokenly, leaving Tennessee and his lover. From now on, this night's dusk would cover up forever the sun and the trees and the flowers and laughter of his young world. As the year progresses, in September, George finally came back to Tennessee. He checked into the best hotel in Tennessee, calling to meet Jonquil at her house. Since his last visit, he has transformed from a childish, immature man into a young, successful gentleman. He had made great progress, gained reputations and upgraded his societal status into upper class. When he reached her house, he saw some changes, although the house was still the same as a year ago. He was so excited about this reunion. Unfortunately, it turned out that they had nothing to say to each other and Jonquil's reaction was not as excited as he expected. It seemed to have distance between them. He asked her in a level voice, "You don't love me anymore, do you?" "No." A minute later, Mrs. Carey offered George and Jonquil Carey to go to see the lady with the chrysanthemums. They strolled in the middle of enormous colorful flowers. When they strolled toward the second garden, the lady went first through the gate. But instead of going through, she stood still and stared at him for a minute. They saw each other's eyes, and both took a short, accelerated breath. Later in the evening, after the silent dinner, they have some more intimate time together. Even though he had known the answer, he still, one more time, asked his affair, "You won't marry me, will you?" "I'm never going to marry," she answered, the sensible thing. They had done the sensible thing. Together for the last time, he asked Jonquil to sit on his lap, shared about his expedition that he had had over the last year. Also at this moment, he admittedly realized that no matter how hard he did try to gain those merits of the American dream, he still could not chase his first love again and recreate a vanished past, those April hours. Well, let it pass, he thought. April is over, April is over. There are all kinds of love in the world,
but never the same love twice.